The Pitbull debate evokes strong emotions. It often leaves grieving families and dog owners and breeders on a collision course. Aggrieved parties argue that Pitbulls are unpredictable. However, dog owners wax lyrically about their gentle side. There was a huge outcry when a Pitbull mauled to death 8-year-old Uleboheng Musime from Vista Park in Bloemfontein in November. A week later, 2 dogs devoured 3-year-old Keketso Saule in Henneman in the Free State. There's a saying that journalists should only report the story and not become part of it. Even in crisis, journalists have a responsibility to their audience to gather news objectively and to report facts. However, some journalists who were in the forefront of narrating stories on Pitbull attacks hold a different view. To them, this was a different assignment, which evokes raw emotions.
Obviously, we are talking about 2 gruesome stories that we have covered in a very short space of time. We are talking about an 8-year-old Uleboheng Musime and a 3-year-old Keketso Saule. I mean, for instance, when we go to Uleboheng Musime's house, when we arrive there, the first thing that you observe is the emotions around, the quietness of the place. And when you speak to the parents, that's when you're already able to pick up the emotions. But with Musime, what touched me was it happened inside his home at the garage. And the first spot when I arrived there, when I spoke to a gentleman was inside the house, I stood on the blood. I didn't realize it, but it was later when it was explained that this is the spot where he died. And when I checked, I could see some blood stains that were still there.
When my colleague Ishmael Mudiba came to fetch me to come to the house, when I got to the house, then I heard the grandmother saying that she heard the child screaming. Then she went outside to check what was going on. Then she saw the dog mauling the child, like badly. And that really hurt me, because I'm a parent as well. That really hurt me.
It's not every day that journalists unravel because of an assignment or a story. But for the Bloemfontein team, individually and as a collective, the emotions that accompanied Pitbull's stories caused a stir, even for the unlikeliest colleagues.
As a camera person, when you get into such a situation, or as a video journalist, you get touched inside. I mean, we went to Uleboheng Musime's memorial service. Seeing all those kids, his classmates, his teachers, all of them crying at the same time, it really touched me. I've done stories before, but none of those stories has touched me like Uleboheng Musime's case. We interviewed the MEC of Education, Tate Makwe. He shed a tear. I looked at my colleague, Makhala Masiting, and I got worried that I hope my colleague doesn't break down. These stories does affect you.
A consolation for the families that have lost loved ones is that there is legal recourse. According to a legal expert, families may claim for general damages. Dog owners can also be prosecuted in the event their animals cause injuries to another person due to their negligence. A 2-year prison sentence may be imposed on conviction or a fine. A charge of murder may be pursued if the dog owner had deliberately urged the animal to attack another person.
The parents observed this horrific incident, and in this instance, they can claim both special and general damages. With special damages, we talk of damages that can be quantified, easily quantified. Such as your funeral expenses, they can claim that. And in terms of your general damages, they can, because they observed this horrific incident, they are able to claim nervous and emotional shock and trauma.
Pitbull's stories reminded the team that they too are human and could break down during an assignment. Simply shutting down one's emotions during a story will not always work for reporters.
We got the same call of the pit bull again. Now even the youngest 3-year-old. You tell yourself that you're going to contain yourself. You are not part of the story. You are supposed to just tell the story. But when I got to Henneman, after speaking to the mayor and the residents, because we had to get that interview out of the way because the mayor was leaving, and then I got to speak to the gentleman who we actually interviewed before. He didn't go much into the details of what had happened. But as I speak to him, just when he was describing the horrific incident, what was left after the incident, I was unable to continue to look at him. I was looking down. I want to hear more, but at the same time, I don't want to. But I know that I need to know what is happening. It's painful. It affects you whether you like it or not. Because at the end of the day, as much as we are journalists, we are human.
First of all, we have been trained to be composed when we go to such stories. So when in line of duty, you somehow program yourself. Though now when I'm talking in particular about the Pitbull story that we've done over and over again, it was a different ball game altogether because emotions were involved there. One can really understand that we're talking about young kids who were bitten by the pit bulls to death, of course. So no one can just really not relate to such incidents. I know that he's supposed to be a journalist, but I'm a human being with emotions before I'm a journalist. So
a psychologist from the University of the Free State advises journalists to debrief because they also get traumatized by other people's lived experiences.
There are people who suffer from vicarious trauma. You know, you did not witness the incident, but you now get to, especially as journalists, you get to listen to the lived experiences of victims of these incidences. That on its own may have a huge negative impact on you as a journalist or any other individual who may be listening, watching on TV or listening over the radio, you know, somebody narrating what will have transpired. You know, sometimes people share graphic details of what will have transpired. That on its own may actually lead to secondary what called trauma. So it's important that if you feel really that you're not coping with what you may have heard or what you may have watched or what you may have read or on the newspapers, it's important to seek attention as well.
Pit bulls make up only 6% of the dog population globally. However, they are responsible for 68% of dog attacks and 52% of dog-related deaths since 1982. This is according to research compiled by Merritt Clifton, editor of Animals 24/7, an animal news agency that focuses on humane work and animal cruelty prevention.